To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning. The new year barely underway, already plenty to talk about. Joining me to kick off 2023, News Channel 5 political analyst Brian Crowley and Palm Beach Post political editor Antonio Fins, two of the very best. Brian, of course, on the political beat for decades, and Antonio doing great work at the Post. I thank you both for helping us start this new year.
Happy New Year.
Plenty, as I said, to talk about. And of course, we begin the person central to Florida politics with national ambitions ahead, Governor Ron DeSantis, his second inaugural. And we'll kick it off there. Sofia Hernandez has that story.
After Florida's top political figures entered through the historic Capitol Tuesday and swore into their new roles, Governor Ron DeSantis, now in his second term, shared his first words to Floridians.
We in Florida lifted our people up.
The governor said he believes his state leads by example, citing changes to environmental restoration and taxes under his first term, as well as support throughout the pandemic. His two other major points, changes to voting and hurricane recovery.
And when Hurricane Ian came last year, the state coordinated a massive mobilization of response personnel, facilitated the fastest power restoration on record, and even quickly rebuilt key bridges that had been wiped out by the storm.
Political professor Dario Moreno at Florida International University says while the governor stated his accomplishments, he wasn't as quick to highlight his agenda moving forward, a different approach from previous governors.
Was very much a statement of philosophy, his theory of how do you govern, his view of sort of the contrast between Florida, which in his mind is well-run, well-governed, growing, attracting growth, attracting population, and the rest of the country, which kind of is in crisis because of what he views as ideology run amok, if you will.
Many suspected Governor DeSantis would hint to aspirations for the presidency in 2024. Instead, he harped on the challenges facing the White House, like inflation and the border crisis, rephrasing mottos used in his election campaign.
We reject this woke ideology. We seek normalcy, not philosophical lunacy. We will not allow reality, facts, and truth to become optional. We will never surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
DeSantis did state in his next term he plans to ensure Florida is a safe place for families, working on furthering tax relief and maintaining parental rights and education. While there was no clear indication made on Tuesday, Moreno believes the possibility for DeSantis to take a run for the presidency is still an option.
And this was the kind of speech you would give if you're flirting with the presidency, talking about philosophy, talking about your view of government, talking about how you delivered on all your promises.
Moreno says the governor will have a second opportunity to state clear policies in the term ahead when the legislature reconvenes in March.
So plenty to unpack there. And Brian, we will begin with you.
Well, the presidential campaign was launched with his speech. We'll get an official announcement, I'm sure, right after the legislative session or sometime around the legislative session, which starts in March. You know, I would say the most striking difference for me in all of the governor's inaugurations that I covered is that most of them would talk about what a great state Florida is. They would talk about the beaches and the sunshine and what a great place it is to do business and all that kind of stuff. And it would be a speech that tried to unify all Floridians for that day, at least. This was a campaign speech. It spoke very little about trying to unify Floridians. He spoke largely to the people who already support him. There was certainly no talk about beaches and sunshine and, and oranges. And it's, in a way, it's sort of a shame that we have a governor who only wants to speak to that portion of the Florida population that supports him.
Antonio Fins?
Yeah, look, it sounded like a 2024 convention speech to me. And but, you know, Brian, it's just a new day in Florida.
Yes.
That's all there is to it. And look, by one of my colleagues' count, he mentioned the word free like 12 times. Another colleague mentioned that he used the word woke 3 times within a couple of sentences. And And that's what this was about. What you didn't hear was affordable housing. We didn't hear anything about affordable housing. You didn't hear about property insurance that they spent 2 special sessions trying to deal with, and which is still the biggest crisis in the state right now. So, but again, he's lining up all the signs, all the stars are pointing that he is about to launch some kind of a national campaign, probably for president. And and this is his way. It was a very, as someone said, a very Fox-friendly speech, and that's what we got in politics today in Florida.
Florida's one thing, a landslide victory. National politics, quite another. Assess his bid that we all expect him to make.
Look, I think that going in, there are, when you are a prospective White House candidate, at this time, January of the year before the election, the 2 biggest problems you have are name recognition and money. He's got both. He has no need to really jump out there and into the fray. Now, the one thing, and I've heard this a lot, and if you think about it, I've heard a lot, is go back to that debate with Charlie Crist, when Charlie asked him the question, will you commit to 4 years in the governor's mansion? And he looked flummoxed. And I hear that all the time. It's like, okay, yeah, he's got money, he's got name recognition, he can machinery, but what happens when he gets on the debate stage with a bunch of people like a Chris Christie who torpedoed Marco Rubio, a Sununu, these guys that really
Donald Trump.
Well, you also have to, I first started covering the New Hampshire primary in 1980, so I'm dating myself a little bit. Yeah, way back then they had that.
Did you get a mug?
Reagan, Reagan,
you got a
George
snow shovel.
H.W. Bush. Yeah, well, we definitely had snow shovels. And in a way, you have to narrow this all the way back down to the primaries and the caucuses. He has to do well in Iowa. He has to do well in New Hampshire. So all these national polls about Ron DeSantis or any of the other candidates are absolute nonsense because we're not nominating somebody on a national ballot. We're nominating them in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. And the real key state for him will be New Hampshire. And where Governor Sununu is, and he's more of a moderate Republican, and New Hampshire voters like him. So it's going to be very interesting to see which Ron DeSantis shows up in New Hampshire.
And briefly before we move on, we got this far in without mentioning the name, former President Donald Trump. But that dynamic, DeSantis-Trump in 23, how that will play out as the campaign gears up. Of course, the former president announced late last year that he'll run again.
Look, a year ago, we looked at that possibility, like the thrill in Manila, Ali and Foreman going at it. But in the last 2 months in particular, the former president's status, he's taken some knocks, the dinner with Kanye West and the conviction of his businesses in New York. And he's taken some knocks. And I think he's been diminished a bit. And he's got to sort of figure out, okay, how am I going to get back on with the momentum here and push forward? That battle seems less of a big-time heavyweight cage match than they did a year ago.
Now to, if I may, a burgeoning migration crisis. I want your input on this. It takes on new urgency here. We have footage as thousands of Cubans risking the high seas to make it to our shores. The Biden administration announcing late last week a new policy for people migrating to the U.S. from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela.
If you're trying to leave Cuba, Nicaragua, or Haiti, or have agreed to begin a journey to America, do not just show up at the border. Stay where you are and apply legally from there. Starting today, if you don't apply through the legal process, you will not be eligible for this new parole program.
Of course, we began with the pictures off our shores, those other pictures from the southern border. Some estimates 250,000 Cubans have made their way to the U.S. over the last year, the overwhelming preponderance at the U.S.-Mexico border. Nonetheless, the crisis, or at least the beginnings of potentially another exodus, some say it's already begun at our shores. Haven't heard a lot of Florida lawmakers talking about that yet, including Governor DeSantis. Weigh in with your take. First of all, we all recognize the huge humanitarian crisis economically and politically in these countries, and you can't have the discussion without that. But what is your sense of all this, Brian?
Well, my sense of all of this is that for decades we have failed to have a coherent and lasting immigration policy. Instead, we turn immigration into a political fight every election cycle, and we take these people and we use them in this political fight, and that's just simply wrong. We need a Congress on both sides that's willing to sit down, negotiate and come up with a sustainable immigration policy. It's heartbreaking what we do to a lot of these people who go through horrible conditions to try to get to this country with great uncertainty as to what's going to happen when they get here, and we really need to put our minds to fixing this.
And we talk about what's going on in Cuba, certainly Haiti, and many have argued there are different standards over years in terms of being able to stay or repatriation. But Antonio, I am curious, as we see people fleeing such tough conditions, whether it's Cuba, Haiti, or beyond, and then lawmakers have that landing on their doorstep. Governor DeSantis, very high profile when he was sending people coming from the border to Martha's Vineyard. It's a different kind of dynamic, especially with the huge Cuban-American political aspect to that, the huge Cuban-American population. Give us your assessment. Give us a bearing.
As a Cuban-American myself who's gone through this, and I remember Mariel the whole bit, look, this is a very complicated issue. And it's a lot funnier to deal with when you're sending people from Texas to Martha's Vineyard. But when it's on your doorstep and you're looking at the various nuances of this, the humanitarian crisis, the burden it does put on our institutions. And it's a very different dilemma. You know, the problem is that anyone in the state leadership in this state that's going to deal with it is going to have to be a Republican. And this is a party, the Republican Party today, their position on immigration. And if you looked last week at the nomination speeches for Kevin McCarthy, rarely did they not mention the crisis of the border. It's seen as a problem in terms of fentanyl entering the country, which is a problem. Human trafficking through the border, which is a problem. But the entirety of the issue that brings in the desperation of these people showing up and the crisis behind it and the fact that those crises all get left out. And you know, this is not an issue that's so easy that, oh yeah, let's just ship them to Martha's Vineyard and you know, we'll resolve this somehow. It's a complicated issue, and simple solutions don't address it.
Final quick take before we go to break, Brian.
Well, I've always believed that we could fix this crisis, or at least put some heavy eyes on this crisis, if every immigrant, illegal immigrant, undocumented immigrant in this country went on strike for a week. For 1 week. Let them all go on strike, and then we're going to find out how many of our businesses, you know, how many people that take care of us, you know, may not be here legally, but we need them, and we need to fix this problem.
Gentlemen, back in a moment with much more to talk about. The Florida connection to the drama over picking a new Speaker of the U.S. House.